So, The Magpie, then, this has recently published a fictional book and you've brought a copy in today. Tell us a little bit about this then, Gary.
Well, I wanted to write a crime novel, and I wanted to write a historically accurate crime novel. I like historical novels, I like crime novels, so I thought I'd put the two together. But I'm also fascinated by World War One.
Right.
So I thought, well, it's got to feature World War One, and not only that, it's got to feature where I grew up, and it's got to feature the things that I know about in the Northeast. So there's an awful lot of the Northeast, and people will know places. You will know some of the places, you will have driven past them. So places like Hartlepool feature there, Durham features there, Durham Cathedral features in it, the River Wear Sacriston features there. There's a whole bunch of things, and there are football matches.
Is it true? Because you're a Newcastle fan, aren't you?
I am.
But it's Sunderland that actually features in the book.
It's Sunderland that actually features in the book. A massive game between Sunderland and Aston Villa, I think somewhere around 1911, right, which actually did happen. I've made it historically accurate. The book, if you read it, the history is all accurate. Obviously, the story is fictional, but when it gets to the trenches, so it starts in Durham. The first murder occurs on the footpath by the River Wear, and then the main protagonist, the main character, is a police detective who's become a policeman, a bit like me, because his mother wouldn't let him go down the pit because his mother was killed. So I've used my own experience there. He decides that he needs to follow this killer out into the trenches to catch him, because the killer, he believes, has gone there to hide amongst all of the mayhem and to carry on his killing amongst all of the killing that's going on. So where would you go if you want to carry on killing amongst other killing? So he heads out there, and the storyline follows accurately the Second Battle of Ypres throughout it. And I've thrown in some cameos of famous people, so people who are actually there that we don't know much about that they did when they were there. Winston Churchill, for example, was out there in the trenches. He sent himself to the trenches. And John McCrae, who wrote the poem In Flanders Fields, he was out there. So Bolam, the main character, bumps into both of those while he's out there. So it was a bit of a... it was great fun having to do the research and to learn all of the subject and to know the places.
Yeah.
So, I walked, if Bolam walks along a trench in Sanctuary Wood, I've walked along that trench. I've turned the corner and I've gone down the dugout to visualise it. The scene in Hill 60 where Bolam sort of goes down at the crater that's been blown, I've stood at the top of Hill 60 and shut my eyes and visualised what it was like to be able to do it, and read eyewitness accounts. The scene at Hellfire Corner where the British, with I don't know whether it was a sense of humour or just ridiculous idea, we put tarpaulins up so the Germans couldn't see us on posts and came down on horses past Hellfire Corner. But I found an eyewitness account of this horrifying scene there, and I used that to embroider part of the story.
I think that's what often makes a book very, very fascinating, when, yes, it's a mixture of fact and fiction, but it's set in, and you're learning historical facts, true historical facts, amongst all of this fiction, and I often think that makes it a very, very fascinating read.
The finale sort of comes where the end of the Second Battle of Ypres, we have tunnelled under the German lines along something called the Messines Ridge, and we've tunnelled and put 17 mines under there, which were packed full of high explosive, and we set them off at the same time, and 2 of them don't go off. But that explosion was so massive at the time, it was felt in London. So from Belgium, near Ypres,
really?
in London, and heard in London. But 2 didn't go off. And one went off in 1953, just went off. Nobody was killed, nobody was hurt because nothing had been built there. But there's still one that hasn't gone off. And every time I go out there, and I'll be going out again in the autumn to do some more research for a new book, I drive along the road that's near enough. It could happen while I'm here. Let's get along it.
My goodness. So, do you go to schools as well to talk about the Magpie?
I do, because I wrote this book. Obviously, being a teacher, I knew what the curriculum was like. But this book, I wrote it as an adult book. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking Key Stage 3 curriculum, because they study World War One, right, and in history and in English, they study the literature of World War One. So I thought, well, if I can make this accessible to 11, 12 and 13, 14-year-olds, it's got a range from 11 to 111. That's what it is, and it's been picked up by schools. So I get invited into schools to do author visits, to talk about writing, and I talk about the journey that we talked about earlier, from sort of coming from a small coal mining village to ending off, sort of, if you like, achieving a dream and writing a novel and actually having it published professionally. That is a massive dream. Spending a day with kids like I did yesterday in different parts of the country, it's great.
Free author visits, and I know that you've got a book signing as well happening over the summer, haven't you?
I have. They are free author visits, Lisa, but I've not done one in the Northeast yet.
Well,
so if you're a parent,
Gary.
A grandparent, it needs to be secondary, key stage 3, 11 to 14. So give the school a nudge. I'll come and do a free author visit. Yesterday I did 3 assemblies. So I did 200 year 7s, 200 year 8s, 200 year 9s. The 8th of July in Waterstones in Durham, I'm doing a book signing. So very exciting.
Get Gary booked for an author visit to the school. Go along, see him, meet him, chat to him. 8th of July. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, Gary.
You're welcome. I've loved it. Thank you.
BBC Newcastle playing you Tony Braxton.